The Utah Mammoth is sorta proud to present NashCast.
What the is a NashCast?
NashCast, the only hockey show on the planet. Hosted by a human speed bag, fourth line wannabe, healthy scratch, schnozzy moto, Tyson Nash.
Who the hell is Tyson Nash?
Never heard of him.
And the baritone with a brain, the velvet hammer, Mr. Silky, Tono Suave, the radio voice of your Utah Mammoth,
Code Blue!
Mike Folta.
Oh, Captain, my Captain!
NashCast begins now.
Ready for takeoff.
Here's Tyler Ganoush and Mickey Foghorn. Wait, what? Oh, here's Tyson Nash and Mike Folta.
Feeling good, full totally. I'm in the cabin on the lake. The draft has come and gone, and I'm sure everyone's, breathing a big sigh of relief. The draft, I thought they knocked it absolutely out of the park. That is Bill Armstrong's strength. He was one of our guests, along with the first round pick at number 17 that they traded up for Ethan. This kid is an absolute stud, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, buddy?
Well, it's not report card season. It's summertime. Kids are out of school. But a lot of people like to give out report cards after the draft. The pundits, the media, everybody's giving the Utah Mammoth an A.
Wow.
Not just because of that Ethan Belchetz pick at 17, but for what they did the rest of the draft as well. We're going to talk to Bill. We're going to talk to Ethan. We're going to talk to the general manager and then the guy that he took 17th overall in the 2026 draft. So 2 interviews for you in this episode. Reminder, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. It's free to you. It helps us. Also follow the NashCast official on Instagram. Lots of great content, a lot of shorts there where you can see the best of each of these interviews and episodes. But Tyson, coming out of the draft, I thought, to your point, it was extremely well orchestrated by Bill Armstrong. JJ Peterka traded away to Boston, 2 first-round picks coming back, and one of them turns into a very promising young goaltender. Tyson, I had a chance to see Sebastian Cossa quite a bit in the American Hockey League. Always thought that he was very, very good. I've talked to people both inside the Detroit organization and other goalie coaches who have seen him before, and they're very high. Everybody is very high on this guy, and the Mammoth think that he's going to be the number 2 to Karel Vejmelka this year. So a lot of exciting stuff this week at the draft.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we work for the team, but you're excited for Utah and the fan base and the continued growth of this team, right? They made the playoffs. The standards and the bar has now been reset, and it's that much higher. And now you add these studs along with the TJ Ginlas, along with the Gabe Smiths, along with, you boot Sergachev, Simichev, excuse me. I mean, it's ridiculous what Bill Armstrong has done, what he was given when he took over as general manager, and what this has turned into. And that is his strength, right? For Bill Armstrong, that is where he shines. That is his Stanley Cup, basically, is what it comes down to. And he, in my mind, knocked it absolutely out of the park.
And you mentioned a lot of those prospects. We're seeing a lot of them right now as we speak. This is the middle of development camp. So Ethan Belchetz is in Utah. Those other draft picks are in Utah for dev camp. And we'll have a scrimmage tomorrow on Thursday where we get to see a little bit more of a game scenario. It's not the most compelling hockey in the world, Tyson, but it's still a nice touch point for these players to get plugged into the organization, a lot of them for the first time.
I think it's important because it gets them acclimated, right? That's a big word for me, but it gets them acclimated to what to expect, right? And there is a lot of pressure, and I'm going to ask, and they talk about that pressure, right? And some thrive and some get a little bit more nervous, right? But they've all been drafted, so they can handle that pressure. But they're going to be on with the pros come September, right? With the actual NHL players at some point. And it's a big jump. It's a big step. It also gives them an opportunity to go, okay, I am a little bit farther away than I need to be. So I better train that much harder on this, that, and everything else. Right. So I can compete and I can show this coaching staff how good I am and that they're lucky that they drafted me. So lots of moving parts to it. I never had development camp when I was playing in the National Hockey League. I know we talked about that before we started taping this. I mean, you just got thrown right into the fire. My first roommate ever with the Vancouver Canucks was Trevor Linden. I mean, I don't think I slept that entire night. I'm like, are you kidding me? Then I'm on the ice with Gino Ojic chasing me around and Pavel Bure. I mean, it was special. It was absolutely special. So I'm so excited for all these kids. Again, I talked about it before the draft. Congratulations to every one of them, particularly the Utah Mammoth draft picks. But if you didn't get drafted, don't get discouraged. Just keep working, keep grinding, spend some more time, work harder than everyone else. Eventually, if you're good enough, they will find you. So loved it, Fultz.
Anything else you want to get to before we get to Bill? Because nobody can describe what we saw at the draft better than the general manager of the Utah Mammoth.
No, let's get to him, buddy. Let's get rolling. All right, we're here with the man. Once again, we had him pre-draft. Now we got him post-draft. Billy, I think the phones maybe stopped ringing just a little bit. But the last 72 hours, I know you had to have consumed about 800 coffees and Red Bulls. You and your staff, how are you feeling about things?
Oh, we're excited. I mean, the draft always has that special magic because after it's done, you get to see all the kids and all that hard work from your amateur side is paid off. And, you've got your new kids coming in for prospect camp and development camp. And it's just, you get a really good feeling. You get to meet them and, they get that twinkle in their eye. They're so excited about being part of the Mammoth the organization. And when they come in here, you can just see them how much pride they have. They're actually wearing an NHL, logo on their golf shirt or hat, and they're so excited to be in this beautiful facility. It's they bring some energy, and it's a great time of the year.
Bill, we just watched you and Ethan Belchetz do some media availability. We'll get to the picks here in a little bit, but a lot of business for you on draft day, including a trade, picking up 2 first-round picks for J.J. Peterka. Obviously, JJ, a talented player, just wasn't quite the right fit. But can you take us through the process and the timing of recouping those 2 firsts in that exchange?
Well, it was important for us to get the 2 firsts, which gives us a little bit of power and it allows us to go out there and do things. And one of the things that we thought, as we moved into the latter part of the second round, we had the pick at 23. We were able to work out a deal with Detroit. We feel like the goaltender, Kosa, he had such, high potential from his draft year and all the way through to where he is now. He was the right fit for us because of the fact of his age and the amount of games he's played in the American League. And now he can come in and help have an impact on our club up top. But our guys really felt like he has a untapped potential and he could really be a goaltender that could help us in the future.
Bill, that trade, does that also you look at J.J. Peterka, he wasn't really fitting in. You gave him an opportunity. It didn't really fit in the top 6. But now with all the prospects that you have, you got the T.J. Gimlers, the Gabe Smiths. I mean, does that open up? Do you need to open up maybe a little window of opportunity saying, hey, we have a spot here now?
Well, Asher, this from going to camp. When there's that opportunity in front of you and you can see that someone's going to, get that opportunity to come in and play on one of the top lines, they get a little bit extra jump in there and you can see that. And it's, we have so many good young players in our organization. Now there's an opportunity, and we've got a lot of guys turning pro, the Gabe Smiths, the Noyers turning pro, a Ginless turning pro. Cole Baudouin's turning pro. So there's a lot of guys that are coming in here that are really excited today about the opportunity that's in front of them. So I think for us as an organization too, I think, as we move through it, that's, somebody's going to be ready here shortly to take that step and there's going to be a great opportunity in front of them.
Going back to Kosa for a little bit, he's been one of the best AHL goaltenders the last few seasons here, but what was the book and the profile on him? He was in that 21 draft, I believe it was. He was an Edmonton Oil King along with Dylan Gunther. So what was the profile that you guys had on him from his draft year, even while you had your eyes on him early?
Well, I think when you get through when you're going through the draft, you're studying. There's always things that stick out about people, and he was talking about his ability to win, and he was such a big guy with all this massive potential. And every year, as we go through the depth charts for other teams, and obviously he was drafted to the Red Wings, we're always talking about the other guys that got drafted. What about this guy? What about that guy? And his name constantly came up because of what his ability was and what he was accomplishing. Whether he's leaving junior or he was going into the American League, he had outstanding numbers, and he always has, and he's always been a goaltender that we've kept an eye on, and we felt like he's still got more potential, but he's at the point where he can now play in the National Hockey League, and we want to take a chance on him. And you're never going to be great if you don't take chances and go out there and put your neck on the line and go out there and try and acquire great players. And they're not cheap, and you've got to go out there and swing. And, my philosophy when I was running the draft was, hey, if we're picking in the first round, I would rather swing and miss than get a third, fourth line guy that has limited impact on your organization. The guys that have impact are on the top two lines and the top four defensemen and the number one goaltenders. And I've always felt like you got to go swing for those guys. And he was one of the guys that we felt like, hey, we have an extra first rounder here. Let's go and swing and get somebody that's close to playing. And he was our guy, and we feel great about bringing him into the Mammoth organization and giving him an opportunity.
I watched him for a long time. It doesn't, hurt when you're 6'7" either, right? But is he a guy, Bill, that you think? I mean, his numbers in Grand Rapids are ridiculous. I can't believe Detroit let him go, to be honest, because I think he's that good. But is he ready to take that next step and to be a backup, maybe to start, but also future number one?
Yeah, I think he's got a great opportunity in front of him. We've had Veggie. He's done an amazing job, and he had great playoffs for us, and he got us into the playoffs. And he's going to be able to kind of hunker down behind Veggie and learn a lot. Corey Schwab's an amazing goaltender coach that we have here. He's done an amazing job he's had Wedgwood and Kemper and Vejmelka. He's done a phenomenal job. He just works with the goaltenders and brings out the best in them. So we got a great goaltender coach for him. He's got a great spot. He's sitting behind Vejmelka, and he can get some games in and kind of grow as he goes along. And you never know, the sky's the limit. He's got a great work ethic. And like you said, Nasher, he's like 6'6", 6'7". He's a massive big man that can move, and he's got goaltender sense. So we're really excited about him coming in and seeing what type of impact he can make in his first year at the Mammoth.
I hate to see your food bill for these guys once they get here. My goodness, you got 6'7", you got 6'5". I mean, you got some monsters now with the herd.
The size, obviously with the D-men and that, you get massive D-men that take a lot of room on the ice. They're not making the ice bigger, so it's like there's some places on our team where we can get bigger and add some size, and with Belchetz and Lamroos and the Simashevs of the world, and also in net with the Harabels and the Kosas. They take up a lot of space, so I'm excited to see when it all comes together how big we are. But it's truly exciting to have that option, to have the size component.
We can tell that you like drafting guys that you can look in the eye at eye level. And one of them was just sitting next to you, Ethan Belchetz. At what point in the first round were things materializing in a way where you felt like he was going to be in play and you could go and get him?
Well, as you come down to it, guys start ticking off your list, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" We're getting to a point where there's only a couple guys that we like, and there's some spots to go here. We got to get on the phone and make some calls and see if we can move up to get into a place to get one of the guys that we really want. I mean, the thing about the first round is you never want to be sitting there and getting somebody you like. You want to love the person. You're picking in the first round, and you want that person to have, top two line, top four ability, or a number one goaltender. You want to swing, like I said. So he has a little bit of everything. He's a tough kid. If you go back and watch some of his moments where he's sticking up for himself and his teammates, he's a tough kid. He's got a long fuse. He doesn't do it that often, but when he does, he can take care of himself. And he's a big man that can be physical. He's got the skill package, and what I love about him, he's got a little knack around the net to score as a big man. So he's a true power forward, and I think that's for us. If we can add that into our team in the next few years, he's going to have a huge impact on our club.
Have you seen any of his personality? I know Fultz and Dominic Moore had him on, and they asked him, if you were an animal, what kind of animal would you be? And he said, well, two of them. I'm a panda off the ice, and I'm a ram on the ice.
Yeah. Well, that is the truth. He's a nice kid, but he's super aggressive on the ice, and you just don't find that many kids that big that can play that way. And he's certainly for us is somebody. If you never know, he could be playing with Cooley and Gunther one day. You never know. He's a big man that can play with some skill.
As far as the rest of the draft goes, another name that popped that a lot of external pundits were saying, "Wow, I can't believe this guy fell," was who you took in the third round, Adam Valentini, who had a great year at Michigan as a true freshman,
Yeah.
young guy, but was very good at the NCAA level. Were you surprised to get him in the third round? What can you say about Valentini?
He's one of the kids that we thought, okay, he's going. If he doesn't go in the first, he's going to go in the second. Then all of a sudden, he was coming our way, and we were really excited. That's a value pick for us. Somebody that can, play on a top two line. He's got a little fire in his belly, so he's someone that he's found a path. He went, kind of skipped over junior hockey and right to Michigan and had impact. So for us, we really like what he can do. He's somebody that he thinks he's 6'4". He doesn't, he in his brain he really thinks he's 6'4", and we love that about him. And he might be a smaller guy, but he plays big.
Was there another diamond in the rough besides him, maybe that you got that you were like, all right, it might take some time, but I love this kid?
Well, I think when you watch our staff pick, the passion that they have, and they're coming down the stretch, and we always talk about it, and I think, our head scout Daryl does a great job of kind of going through the room and saying, what about this guy at this pick? What about this guy? And you can see your staff fight, for their picks, and all the guys that we took, even the latter part of the rounds, you could see our staff have passion for drafting those kids. And that's usually when you see some of those guys make it and you always remember that on the draft floor that this scout, he fought so hard for this guy. So I really think it's, down the stretch as we moved, and Adam was one of them, the passion that our scouts had, and probably for Adam the most, to be honest with you, two of our guys from the U.S., they fought for him tooth and nail. They were so excited. I mean, when we announced that, Luke Karate, the big man that scouts the U.S. for us, I mean, he almost jumped up on the table. He couldn't believe that we got him. So you love to see that passion out of your scouts. That's when you know that they really believe in the player.
I got another quick one just about Ethan. Who is the scout banging the table, jumping up and down on yanking your suit jacket, going, Bill, oh my God, let's trade up. We got to do it now. Is that how that works?
Well, Corey Banica and Mark Bell, they only think that there's one league in the world. That's the OHL.
Banica, I fought that guy in Hershey one night. Yeah. Oh my God!
He's a character. He has his own analytics. He calls them Banalytics. They're the winning analytics. So he's had a huge impact in drafting Cole Baudouin and along with Ethan too. They were standing on the table, pounding their fists on for some of these guys from the OHL, but especially for Ethan, they were excited about him, getting into that range and for us being able to draft him.
Bill, what is it about the War Room that makes you pull your trade gun out of the holster and start slinging it around? Because a couple years ago, you shocked the world. Sergachev, Marino, you trade up to get Baudouin as well. This year, what was it? 3 trades. During that first round. Is there something about that War Room, or is that all the plan heading in?
Well, I think for us, we're different as an organization. We got to the point where you want to keep taking a step. And when you're drafting, your kids are so young, and it's like you're looking around going, hey, we got great defensemen coming. We got this guy coming, but it's 3 years off. We've got to speed it up and be able to get somebody, whether trading a prospect, whether you're trading J.J. Moser and Connor Geekie for Sergachev, you've got to find a way to speed up the process. And we've always had a thought process that, hey, we're going to make trades. Whether it's Kosa, where, we have Harabel, he's an unreal goaltender. He's our goaltender also of the future. But can you speed it up and get someone that's ready to play right now? And I think a lot of teams in the National Hockey League, that have gone through the same thing that we have are also looking to do the same thing. They're not afraid to make trades, whether that's, Chicago at 4, they're going to make trades. So everybody's trying to get into that next wave of helping their young kids win. And how you do that is going to grab a 24, 25-year-old player, 26-year-old player, and put them in the hole and kind of grow your group a little bit faster. So when we're at the draft, we're not only thinking about drafting great players, we're also thinking about how do we get better now.
Bill, they set a what was it, an NHL record since you guys went to 7 rounds. 32
Yeah.
goalies were picked this year. I mean, it's the most important position in the game of hockey, and it was always crazy to me that. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because they take so much long to develop, right?
Yeah.
So you don't see many goalies go in the first round, but you guys got Kosa and obviously another goaltender that's a big guy as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, when did that shift kind of happen?
Well, it is interesting. I mean, it's nothing like, when you're introducing your kids, your young players, and saying, and your owner says, "Hey, how long is this guy playing?" "Oh, he's about 2 years away." "How about this guy?" "So what about the goaltender?" "Oh, he's about 8 years away." He's like, it's just takes goaltending so long, and so it's I think there is a shift in the NHL, not only from our team, but you see a lot of teams now when they're making trades, they're trying to get a little bit older and they're trying to find that guy in the sweet spot that's 24, 25 years old, that's ready to play, that can come in and have impact. So goaltenders take a long time, and you never know with goaltenders, Yeah, if there was a goaltender scout out there that could predict the future, we'd pay him about $10 million a year to work for us. And nobody's been able to do it yet. It's a hard position to predict at times, and it takes a long time.
Bill, this has been great. Last one for me. Just with development camp coming up, you got 4 first-round picks, a slew of other prospects as well that you guys are excited about, the Gabe Smiths of the world, if you will. But how does this development camp, is it any different than the last couple now with some of these younger guys a little bit closer to making that transition?
Yeah, and I think, you see it, our guys are starting to mature. They've done their junior time. Now they're coming in this year. They're turning pro. And, now you're turning pro. It's like you to play in the NHL or you to play in the American League. That's all kind of processing in for them. And you could see their excitement. They're like, hey, they got their eyes set on making the National Hockey League. And we're never going to take their dream away from them. We want them to believe in that dream. We want them to come in and come to camp. Logan Cooley's come in this camp and got a job, and so is Karel Vejmelka. He's walked right in the door and taken a job. So I do believe there's kids. I think the kids nowadays, the prospects are better developed. They're more mature. They're better hockey players now than they've ever been at that age. So I do think they have a chance to come in and steal a job. So it'll be an interesting camp. And this is the kickoff where they come in and kind of show their stuff, and they leave that impression where you're like, hey, he's not that far away from the National Hockey League. Maybe we need to make some room for that player.
Bill, last one from me. I'm like a used car salesman when I'm talking about the Utah Mammoth. I'm selling you guys everywhere I can, but when these kids walk into that facility, right? Their eyes. What they're seeing. It is impressive, isn't it?
It is. It's Ryan Smith and his wife Ashley Smith and SEG have done an incredible job at making this one of the best facilities, the most elite facility in the National Hockey League. From having a barber chair and a shooting room, you name it's here. It's like walking to the Ritz every day. We're pampered and we're spoiled, and our kids, from the moment they get here, they know like, wow, this is incredible. This is the place I want to be. And I think just Utah's beauty and the whole setup here is spectacular.
I feel sorry for any kid that gets traded later on in their career, going from that to wherever they go, because there's nothing like it. You're right. Bill, thank you. Thank you again, as always. I know you're a busy man, and enjoy what you guys have done. You knocked it out of the park again.
I appreciate it, Nasher and Mike. Appreciate you having me on, and have a great summer, gentlemen.
Thanks, Bill.
Go Mammoth.
That is General Manager Bill Armstrong. And Tyson, he's always smiling this time of year. He made a ton of moves during the draft. Really nobody else could compare with the Mammoth in the drama department, with the picks that Bill Armstrong was slinging around, bringing in Kosa, trading Peterka, and making the selection he did, trading up to get Ethan Belchetz. So it's always fun to see his reaction to his own handiwork this time of year.
I can tell you, Foltz, I don't think there is another podcast in the league that gets the general manager on the show as much as we do. So thank you to Bill Armstrong. First of all, for that, you talking about he's always smiling. Well, he's always smiling because look at what he did, the job he did and his scouting staff. I mean, not only does he put a team together on the ice, but he has to put a scouting staff team together off the ice, right? And that's equally as important because that's the future of your franchise, future of your organization. And Bill Armstrong just continues to absolutely kill it. So a great draft, a success. You talked about it. I think you got to whoever the so-called experts are, they got A grading, which I've, by the way, never gotten in my entire life. I always had D's and I know. Okay, all right. D's and I was gonna say D's and C's. It's not that funny, folks, but yeah.
Hey, gets degrees, baby. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Degree in hockey.
Yeah, that's about it. Thank God for that, by the way. But just fascinating. Again, pulling back the curtain and getting a look inside that war room, how the draft, who's banging the table, how they're getting their guys.
Yeah.
And for me, they got their guys. And just another pile of prospects. And what's again going to be interesting, and I know Bill didn't bite on it when I interviewed him before the draft. Because you look at Florida, what they did to bring in Brady Tkachuk from the Ottawa Senators, they did not give up a single player off their active roster in the National Hockey League. So you look at Bill, all these prospects, all these studs, I'm telling you, it doesn't math. Not every one of them can play. There's not enough contracts for it. So eventually, some of these young kids are going to become expendable, but expendable in the best way possible because they're going to be traded for stud NHL players that the Utah Mammoth can, again, jump to that next level.
Well, one guy I am excited to see in Mountain Blue, hopefully sooner rather than later, is Ethan Belchetz. Taking 17th overall, the Mammoth traded up to get him in the first round. A lot of the rankings had him going earlier. He was injured at the end of the year. That might have allowed him to slip a little bit. Well, advantage Utah because they got an absolute horse, or should I say a ram. We had a great conversation with Ethan right after we talked to Bill. Let's hear from number 17th overall, Ethan Belchetz.
All right, everybody, buckle up because the Mammoth have just added another giant to the herd. This boy is 6'5", 230 pounds. He can hit, he can score. Yes, and he can fight, folks. I've seen it. Welcome, my man, their first pick in the draft, number 17 overall, Ethan Belchetz. Welcome, buddy.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I heard
Ethan, we heard you
Fultz. I gotta stop you there. I mean, he was late to the show, all right? So that's one knock against you. But I heard you were down and you thought you were going to the electric chair because you ate all the food. You ate all the pasta and all the steaks down there. What's going on, big man?
I did have 2 bowls of chicken and rice there, but to be fair, the good food's good here.
We've heard a lot about the smoothies down there. What did you go for? You had a smoothie?
I didn't have a smoothie, but it was like chicken, rice, and I had like a hydration drink or something. It was pretty good.
When you first walked in, I mean, how sick? I mean, your eyes had to have been as big as saucers because this facility, I've been around the NHL a long time and there was nothing like it, eh?
Yeah, it was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. It wasn't really what I expected. And, it kind of blows your mind away that, you walk in and the room's huge and then you go to the gym and then it's like amazing there pretty much.
Ethan, this has been a whirlwind for you, I'm sure, these last couple days, but has there been a pinch me moment yet or a moment where it's all hit you and it's felt real for the first time?
Probably getting on that flight. When I sat down and I was like, all right, I'm actually like flying to Utah to go to my first, NHL development camp. And, you kind of have to take a step back and kind of see what you're going through. And it's pretty cool.
Walk us back through the draft. That suit you had on. And second of all, Gary Bettman, like meeting him is a big thrill. I know that. I mean, that had to have been a welcome to the NHL moment as well. But Gary Bettman's up to your waist. but walk us through the suit. Who picked it out? Because I know that thing is definitely not off the rack.
Yeah, it was custom made, from a company there in Toronto there, and I'm super grateful for those guys. And I talked to my parents in and siblings, and we kind of wanted that. I've always kind of wanted that Harvey Specter look, and I thought it came out pretty well. So
I love that guy.
yeah. So and then the inside jacket is it was their design for the NHL draft special too. Just like 3 or 4 kids who had it, and then I wanted to add my own little twist to it to add a couple photos.
One of the photos that was your family. What's the rundown with the siblings, like your parents, who got you into hockey, all that stuff? Kind of give
For
us the
sure.
lowdown on that panel of the suit.
Yeah, family's everything to me. On the back collar, I actually had "Family Forever" written on there, so super important to me. And then both my parents are in the medical field. My dad was an emergency doctor. My mom was a MRI tech, and then 2 older sisters. My one older sister plays a goalie at University of Connecticut D1 hockey team there, and she kind of got me into the game by, she'd always ask me, "Can you shoot pucks on me?" And then slowly and slowly, I started scoring more goals, and she kind of got me into the game, and I fell in love with it there. And then I got a little brother, Luke.
Usually it's the opposite way around, where the younger brother's getting thrown in net, but
Yeah.
you were the one shooting.
Yeah, weird, but lucky for me, I do not want to be a goalie.
Was that a moment for you when you were up on that draft stage, shaking hands with Gary Bettman, looking out in the crowd and going, "This is for me, but it's also for the people that supported me, for mom and
For
dad, for
sure.
my younger brother, and obviously the grocery bill that they had to fund every month." I'm sure for you.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy for them. A lot of sacrifices, and there's a photo of our first initials reaction. And if you can zoom in on all our faces, like my sister's smile was ear to ear. She might have been the most excited. So, it's obviously a cool experience for me, but even cooler for them.
So your sister plays in Storrs, Connecticut at UConn. Nice program there at the Division I level. You're headed to play or committed at Michigan State. Obviously, coming into camp, want to make the team, but you chose the college hockey route. Was your sister part of the decision making process to go to college hockey as opposed to staying for more years in the OHL?
Yeah, obviously, she experienced that, and she had a great time and got a lot of, videos of what it's like to be a college student. But also, just for me, I think it's the right path. Every single hockey player's path is going to be different on how they make the NHL. But for me, I think, Michigan State, if that's the spot for me next year, then, I'm super excited to get going with them.
Does that add any more or make it that much more special when you look at a team like Utah, who was picking 19th? They trade up because they knew you were still available. They were little. We just talked to Bill Armstrong. They had scouts in the whatever the war room, and they were pulling on his shirt, frothing at the mouth, fighting, and then they were like, "We got to get this guy. I mean, we have to get him." Does that make it that much more special?
It does. It really does. When an NHL franchises trades up to take you with their first round draft pick, it's such an honor and a super special moment. And as soon as I saw that big red sign at the draft site saying trade pick, I was like, oh geez, something's happening here. And I just kind of had the butterflies in my stomach and kind of had a feeling for sure.
One thing we didn't get to see at the draft, because you were in that great suit, was this tattoo you got on your right bicep. What's
Yeah.
the ink you got?
Yeah, so I got a ram on my shoulder with the forest and then the map of Canada, 2 compasses, and then the coordinates of my house in Oakville. And I got it done a couple months ago.
How cool is that? I love the you were talking about it the other day, the panda and the ram. So tell our NashCast fans what is going on. I thought that was the funniest thing ever.
So on the ice, I see myself as a ram. They look like they're ready to go, and then as soon as someone gets in their territory or tries to mess with them, they're pouncing at you head first. They'll go into anything, go into a wall, brick wall, anything. So that's for me how I see myself. And then off the ice, a panda. It's a pretty face, big body. Likes to just have fun. They're always messing up somehow, but they're fun to be around, fun to look at.
Did you come up with the ram yourself, or was that like from a Planet Earth nature documentary where you're learning this stuff? Or where does that like kind of idea come from?
Yeah, it's because I'm an Aries, so I did research into like what it means to be an
Okay.
Aries. It's like courageous, determined, all that type of stuff. So then, I kind of just like that aligns exactly with how I live and my morals and how I act. So I thought it was pretty special.
Are you nervous? Like you get off the plane, in Utah, you're looking around going, man, I could play here one day. I'm going to
Mhm.
play here one day. I'm sure that's your
Yeah.
attitude. But when you walk, into development camp, you're with all these other great prospects. I saw T.J. Ginla is going to be there, and some of the big boys from the draft from previous years. Are you a little bit nervous for that?
No, I'm excited. These are my future teammates here. So,
That's
I'm
why you're a
excited.
first rounder. That was a test question, right? No, I'm not nervous. I'm
No,
ready to kick some ass.
yeah. When I touch down and I see the beautiful city of Salt Lake, it's like this is where I'm gonna live the rest of my life. And I walk into this facility and I haven't got to see the game rink yet. But if this is the practice arena, I can't only imagine what the game arena is gonna look like. So yeah, it's super special to think about this is what my future holds.
One thing Bill and the organization has talked about when drafting guys in the first round, drafting guys as high as you went, that character piece has to be there. And they mentioned with you, like you really popped in those interviews at the combine in Buffalo. What was that interview process like, especially with Utah? Did you have any inkling that there was that love affair there already, or what was the feeling coming out of those interviews?
Yeah, as soon as you meet with the team and you walk out of that room, you have a good feeling or a bad feeling. And as soon as I walked out of that room with Utah, I was like, that was a really good interview, and felt really comfortable with the whole staff there, and had a really good handshake with Bill Armstrong. He's always been talking about that, and he's like, you got a strong handshake. So I think someone was already bonded there.
You're or soon to be a pro, relatively soon. But you're a pro now. You're going to be signing a pro contract eventually. But when you walk into that NHL locker room, is there one guy that you're most excited to meet?
Yeah, obviously there's so many guys on the Utah Mammoth that I'm excited to meet. Logan Cooley, Jack McBain, Nick Schmaltz. The list goes on and on of guys that you watch. You're like just 2 years ago. I'm just a huge hockey fan and living in Oakville and playing minor hockey, watching everyone play NHL and just being a fan. And then you're a part of an organization on the verge of becoming a pro hockey player. So it's pretty cool.
And you had your boys there at the draft too, right?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
your teammates or high school teammates?
So I had about 55 people, 60 people there for me, and a lot of family. Obviously, my billets from Windsor. I've got my guy I lived with, my roommate there, his family, and then pretty much my whole Oakville Rangers team was there. About I think it was 10 of my boys who I played with, 7 of them, and 3 of them were high school friends. But it's pretty special to have all those guys make that trip, and they took a party bus down, which I assume was pretty fun.
You're like, get me on that thing. Let's go. I got development camp though. You're 6'5", 230. You're obviously walking a little taller right now, being a first round pick. But do some of those boys keep you humble?
Yeah. Well, they see me as that 12-year-old who was, chubby and just ate everything he could. And, they're still special, and, they're there to keep me going. And, doesn't matter if I just scored a hat trick or, just played the worst game of my career, I can go home to those guys and, dab them all up and, chop it up and have some fun.
Oh, you're built like a specimen now. Were you not always that way as a kid?
Well, I always grew up like the biggest kid, thickest, like had a little bit of weight to me always. But for me, just working with nutritionists and strength and conditioning coach, lean out, get stronger. And, it's done a lot for me.
Who's a player that, you talked about being a big hockey fan. Who's maybe a player that you would try to emulate in the NHL?
Yeah, there's a bunch, Uri Slavkovsky, the Kachuk brothers, Alexis Protas. It's pretty cool. I played with Ilya Protas, Alexis' little brother, in Windsor there. And, I always tried to be a sponge and ask him little questions like, so how did he get faster? How did he lean up? What does he do in the summers? And, Pro gave me a little inside scoop on, how he made it.
Cool.
Well, how do you get faster? Because you hear that from prospects of like, oh, I'm going to work on my skating. And for a lot of our fans in Utah, like we probably don't understand what that means day to day. Are you doing sprints? Is it all on ice work? Is it strength and hitting the squat rack? What is it?
I think it's everything of what you just said all mixed together. I have a power skating coach, Don Braid. I work with a strength and conditioning coach with Brian Marshall. I'm a nutritionist, and it all comes together in the end where, you work with the Don, the power skating coach, for the technique. Then you have the Brian with the strength conditioning, and that's, the sprints, the assault bike, the squats, working on your muscles. And then, the nutritionist and making sure you're fueling your body properly. So at the end of the day, you need all 3 of those things to come together. And, once for me, all those things click, and it's starting to slowly. And, I'm pretty excited that, to get out there and show I've already improved a bit.
I played a little bit. No, I can't say a long time, but hockey, I mean, there's so many highs and lows. But for you so far in your young career, what is, I guess, some of the hardest lessons that hockey has taught you so far?
For me, I think I bring my best game in the biggest games, so playoffs. And the past 2 years, I've had an injury, season-ender injury right before playoffs. One year was a grade 3 high ankle sprain, and then this past year I broke my collarbone and needed surgery. So you don't know why those things happen. You can't control it, but it sucks. We had two good teams, and talking to coaching staffs with teammates, if I was in the lineup and we had a lot of guys out both years, we could be championships with a ring on our finger. So it sucks and those things happen, but the only thing you can control is, coming back stronger and being a better person but also a better player.
Did you have a chance to rehab like back in time for the playoffs if maybe they would have kept going or I guess what I'm trying to ask is what was the rehab process like for you? Did you know you were totally shut down for the year?
So in the first year, yes, it was a pretty bad high ankle sprain where I felt my foot was blown up and I couldn't really walk on it for 2 months. But this past year, if it was up to me, I was playing at the 5 week mark with my arm in a sling, which is using the one hand. But talking to doctors and my family, like my dad's in the medical field, he knows how long it takes to actually heal a bone. And if you go back in and maybe you're playing, but you're kind of scared to take a hit because you're scared your collarbone's going to break. So there's no point in coming back and hurting the team just because you're in the lineup doesn't mean you're making good plays and bringing like my best. And me being at my best is being physical, so I kind of need both my shoulders.
Dad's in the medical field. I might need to hit him up for a prescription or two. I'm over 50 now. I'm over 50 now, folks. Right? Again, I guess, talking about your friends and your teammates, if we ask them to describe you, what do you think they'd say about you?
Fun to be around, keeping it light and, he knows when it's time to dial it in. Like I said, it's fun to be around those guys. It's just your buddies. You don't even think twice about, making jokes and talking and, just a fun person to be around.
Do you have a chance yet? I know this is like your second day in Utah, but have you had a chance to meet some of the other prospects here? Like we're just starting development camp. It's the first day, but what's it been like? Have you had a chance to hang out with TJ Ginla, Caleb Denoye, Cole Baudouin, those types of guys?
Yeah, for sure. Walking around and just the facilities here, you see those guys and, eating lunch or breakfast or whatever it is, or just kind of hanging out. It's special to, just kind of meet those guys and excited to, build a championship team here with those guys.
Nicole Kidman was mine. If you had one celebrity congratulations call, who would it have been?
For me, I think it'd have to be Adam Sandler. I love his films. So funny. I was actually watching it on the flight here, the longest yard. So it would be pretty cool to get that.
Okay, top Adam Sandler films then.
I don't know. I like Grown Ups, Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
I like the first one a lot more than the second one.
Yeah,
personally.
terrible. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, all his films are really good. I can watch any single one of them.
Do we have any hidden talents? I'm a big chess guy, and people didn't know. They thought I was a little weird because most guys play checkers or whatever it was back. I'm old, but do you have any hidden talents?
I might need to play you in a game of chess. It's not my talent, but I'm all right. I can beat my dad, so that'll be fun. But I don't know. I play tennis. I play golf, pickleball, all those things. Just like all those other sports. I always play my mom or my friends in tennis, and I think I'm pretty good. I got the backhand spin going, so that's a little talent.
I love that you play tennis because everyone has switched over to pickleball. I'm like, what is this sport? Play a real game. That's tennis. I love it.
Well, I like tennis because you're actually moving. You're not just standing there.
Right.
Oh, they might try to line you up at defensive end. If anybody from the University of Utah or BYU sees you walking around Salt Lake City, football is pretty big here as well. I wanted to ask you about another guy, the Mammoth drafted, because did you play with Valentini with Team Canada at all?
Yeah.
What
I did.
was your interaction with him like?
Awesome guy. He's fun to be around. He's he's a hardworking guy, such a talented hockey player, but behind the cage and he's even a better person off the ice. And he just landed here, and I already gave him a hug and congratulated him, and excited to get going with him.
Now he's a Wolverine. You're a Spartan. So
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
a little bit of a rivalry there.
A Spartan. Oh, do not let Matt McConnell get a hold of you.
Too late.
He'll be
Too late.
Too late? Oh, he's got the body paint. We go out on Saturday afternoons. He's got the green body paint, the nipple covers on. It's
I'll
nasty.
paint my body white and we can match.
Oh God. Yeah, yours might look a little better compared to his bag of milk. But I gotta ask you about road trips. Are you the guy that maybe sleeps all flight, watches movie, or are you in the card game?
I like to play cards. As a, we always did have pretty long road trips, and I like to, play poker or euchre or whatever it is, and
Euchre,
I
let's
like to
go.
play that.
All
But
right.
sometimes if it's a really long trip, you need to get some Z's, so that's nice sometimes.
You seem like such a confident guy, Ethan. Where does that come from? Is that your parents? Did someone instill that in you from an early age, or did you develop it as you went along?
It's just kind of how I've always been, kind of an outgoing, confident guy, and staying humble. So just try to have fun with it. And this is a crazy experience I'm going through, and it's hard to get the smile off my face.
All right, last question here. I know you're probably, it's been 5 minutes since you last ate, so I'm sure you're probably hungry again. But that first paycheck that hits that bank account, now being a pro, what's the most irresponsible thing you think you're going to buy?
Not being smart or thinking here. Probably a car. A lot of driving is going to be made, so I'm pretty excited to get that new vehicle.
What kind?
I don't know, really. I want I either want a big truck. I feel like I'm a truck guy, or kind of like a big SUV or something like that. I feel like that's kind of the car I give off.
Black
Like-
Escalade, something like that.
President in the
modest.
back.
Blacked out rims. Ethan, this has been awesome, man. We're so happy for you, but we're excited to have you as well. And
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing you on the ice here
For
at
sure.
development camp as well. So
Yeah, can't
congratulations
wait.
again.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Another good Canadian boy. We'll see you in September, buddy.
Yeah,
Good luck.
exactly. Thank you.
Have fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, folks, that didn't disappoint, and this is a loaded NashCast. Absolutely loaded. The GM, the architect of the Utah Mammoth, who made one of the biggest splashes, I thought, in the entire National Hockey League. First of all, Sebastian Cossa. This guy is a stud. We talked about him at length with Bill. 6'7". This is another giant added to the herd for the Mammoth, and he can kick. And not only do they think that he can step in and be a backup goaltender with a number of starts to help out Karel Vejmelka, they think that eventually he has the potential, at least. Lots needs to happen to become a number one goaltender in the National Hockey League. So 32 goaltenders were taken in this year's draft. That's an NHL record since they went to 7 rounds. It's the most important position in the game of hockey. And Bill Armstrong talked about the depth that they now have as an organization in that department.
And I think goaltending depth was maybe a weakness as of a couple months ago for the Utah Mammoth, but Michael Robel turns pro. He had a really good end of the year in Tucson, and you add Sebastian Cossa, who could be the next big thing along the Wasatch Front. So really exciting stuff for the Utah Mammoth. Of course, we're in the middle of development camp, so we're talking to all these young guys, so many of them saying they're going to try and make the team coming up in main camp in September. Not all of them are going to make the team, but it's certainly entertaining and fun to watch them try, because there's a lot of talent here.
And you hit Bill with JJ Peterka. I mean, that had to have been a tough decision, right, for Bill. The kid did put up 25 goals, but I don't think, me personally, and this is only my opinion, that he fit. I really don't. I think he played himself out of that top 6 forward department. He still put up 25 goals, which was impressive, but if he's not playing on your number 1 power play, if he's not playing in your top 6, then what is he doing, right? So you might as well, get rid of him now. And they got mass return back, right? They got 2 first-round picks, 1 pick that they ended up getting Cossa for, I believe. So, I mean, just Jedi mind trick by Bill Armstrong. But I also think it was a great trade for the Boston Bruins. I like JJ Peterka, and Boston needs speed. They need scoring. They're getting a little long on the tooth, so it's going to be a really good fit for him as well. And then it opens up some doors, and that's what Bill Armstrong talked about, that for guys that are turning pro this year, the T.J. Ginlas, the Gabe Smiths, the Denoyes, they're all turning pro. So you need to give them a glimmer of hope, on top of, which we didn't ask them about, is the contract piece. They free up millions and millions of dollars because that Peterka contract is now gone. So lots of moving parts. And then obviously the conversation we just had with Ethan. This kid, you guys are gonna love him in Utah. He's an absolute stud. How about 6'5", 230 pounds? The kid is what, 18? I mean, he was late to the show because he was eating the Utah Mammoth on a house and home down in the locker room in the kitchen where they get fed. So anyway, he's just a ton of fun, big personality, and we love it.
He was amazing, and another one of these really well-spoken, confident, charismatic guys that the Mammoth have brought in. So they've been stacking them. They've been stacking them in Mammoth Land, and we'll see which ones turn out to be stars in Mountain Blue. Tyson, what a week! What a week for the organization, and
I'm exhausted, and I wasn't even in the room.
we got Paul Bunyan in his log cabin. He's going to go chop some wood over there. But we'll see everybody next week. Again, thanks for following along on Instagram and the NashCast official. We'll talk to everybody a few days from now as at the conclusion of development camp, after free agency, and all that fun stuff. But until then, God bless and tuss up.
We'll see you guys. Yeah, tusks up. I don't have any tusks, but that's the closest thing I got to them. Let's go. Utah Mammoth, baby. See you guys.